Christ's love compels us, is the theme for the 43rd Annual Bishop Services Appeal. I hope, I pray, and I ask of you today to consider a financial contribution to support the Bishop Services Appeal and carry out Christ's mission of love.
Today in America, nearly 13 million children live below the poverty line. Will you help? Go to povertyusa.org today.
Lord, make me a means of your peace.
Welcome to Catholics Today, a production from the Catholic Diocese of Lafayette highlighting religious programs and the people offering the services to help those in South Central Louisiana. Thank you for joining us. I'm here today with Sarah Clement, Director of Development of Catholic Services of Acadiana. Today, we will discuss the history of their organization, its impact in the community, and how you can contribute to the cause. Sarah, welcome to Catholics Today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, Sarah, why don't you start by sharing a little bit about the history of Catholic Services of Acadiana?
Sure. Catholic Services of Acadiana has been around for a little over 40 years. It was founded in 1973 by the late Monsignor Alexander Seguer. We had very humble beginnings with a tent on the Evangeline Thruway, and it was really manned by Monsignor Seguer and the community that he had sort of rallied behind this cause. He knew that there was a need in our community for relief from hunger and poverty, and he sought to fill that need. So it was really a grassroots sort of community effort in its beginnings back in 1973. So we've been around for quite a while in our diocese, and we're always growing and changing. And as that program sort of got off, and then we sort of saw other programs that needed to evolve from that. In the 80s and the 90s, we saw a huge period of growth. Our most well-known program started in the 80s, which is St. Joseph Diner.
Sure.
Again, that's a huge community-supported and led. Even today, it's largely community-supported organization that provides 3 meals a day to people experiencing hunger. So we serve breakfast and lunch and dinner every day of the week. From there, we also opened some shelters. So we opened St. Joseph's Shelter for Men and New Life Center for Women and Children up in Opelousas. So we started moving from more of just relief, but we were, now seeking to really also provide a place for people who were homeless to sleep at night and, provide a way for them to get out of that situation of homelessness. And then we were a little quiet for a little while managing those programs until the early 2000s. 2007, we began St. Michael's Center for Veterans. So, taking our existing shelter and focusing a whole section of it just for veterans. In 2012, we began a hygiene facility. It's called the Stella Maris Center. And that provides, showers and laundry, access to wash clothes for people currently living on the street. And that same year, we also started a garden at the diner. Now we are, within the last couple of years, we've started really focusing on rehousing. So not just sheltering people, not just managing, the sort of social ills we're experiencing in our community, like hunger and poverty and homelessness, but really working towards ending those in our community, which, all of those programs are geared towards that. And then, within the last 3 years, we actually took some time and refocused and looked at all those programs and said, what's the best use of our limited resources, the community's resources? How can we really make a meaningful impact? And so we renamed from Lafayette Catholic Service Centers, which is what we existed as for almost 40 years, and changed our name to Catholic Services of Acadiana. And we
instead of just
rebranded.
Lafayette Catholic Service
Right.
Centers, yeah.
Right. So we changed our name. We redid our logo. We redid our mission statement. We really took some time to reflect and respond to the needs in our community in a new way. So that rebranding was an exciting turn for us in the last couple of years.
So I know that you have 6 core values.
Mm-hmm.
Could you please explain what they mean and what they're all about?
Yeah. So part of that refocusing and rebranding, we really wanted to take some time to reflect on what it is that we believe as an organization, how we want to execute those services. What is really the most meaningful to us? What do we want our staff to embody? What do we want the people that come for services, what do we want them to experience when they meet any of our staff? And that goes for the people on the front lines and the people that work in administration. We are all on board with these core values. And so it was really an exciting time in the life of our organization to really go back and to look at these things. So the first thing we did was we really focused on what are we really focusing on? And so we want to embrace our responsibility to care for one another, and we would like to encourage and have the community at large embrace that as well. And so in doing that, the first core value that we have is just a dignity, acknowledging a dignity of the human person. So we value that every person has a sacred dignity that comes from God, and we believe that all humanity is made in the image and likeness of God. And that it doesn't come from what we do, but just from who we are. And so, in talking with our staff, we have a varied, belief system on our staff. Not everybody that works with us is Catholic, and we love that diversity because not all the people that we serve are Catholic. And so our staff is a reflection of the people that we serve. But we all know that the values that we have transcend religion.
Absolutely, they're
for
all
our
core
staff.
moral values.
So we kind of laid the foundation with that dignity of the human person, and that really helps us to work with individuals that are, in varied degrees of suffering, and to not judge them for the situations that they are in, not judge the situations themselves, but to know that they are made in the image and likeness of God, and that because of who they are, they deserve our utmost respect and care. So that would be our first value. Our second value is solidarity. And that's our belief that we are one human family, regardless of ethnicity, nationality, economic, situations and differences. And so we are determined to be towards the common good, regardless of who you are. So we believe in this sort of common kinship, if you will, that we are all we all belong to one another in a certain way. So that would be solidarity. And then our third is boundless mercy, which in this year of mercy, I know people are probably very familiar with mercy, but I think the key word with that one is boundless, that we want people to experience beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is no end to the mercy that we will show them. And when we talk about this with our staff, we give examples of each core value and how that might look in a day-to-day. And sometimes the people that we serve, we kind of joke that we're the ones that have the job. They don't have the job. So if they miss an appointment with you, we need to be merciful towards that. We need to say, that's fine. Let's reschedule. We don't need to be upset about that. It's our job to work with them and to help them achieve their goals. And if, we're the ones with the jobs, not them. And so we have, countless opportunities to show them mercy. And
compassion and forgiveness.
Yes. So boundless mercy is our third core value. Joyful tenacity is our fourth, and that's my favorite. It's my favorite as well. We look at our staff and we are we're very go-getter, and sometimes that can come across a little bold, I would say, to some people, because we don't take no for an answer when it comes to advocating for our clients and making sure that the people that we serve are getting what they need in terms of care from us or organizations or the community. And so, not just within our own, working with one another, but working with the community at large. Like, we want people to see that we are, all about what we do, and we are going to be the best that we can be for our clients, and we're going to do it very joyfully. I think that joy is something that the world needs a lot of. The world has a lot of other great things about it, but joy, I think, is lacking sometimes, especially in our work. And so the joy that we can bring to our work and the joy that we can bring to our clients may be the only joy that they experience that day. So we always walk around with a smile on our face. And
well, I think that when you know that you're working, that they are Jesus, that you have joy.
Yeah, when we work and we know that we're doing holy work, that gives a joy in and of itself.
And there's always that adversity, but
Right.
It's adversity with courage.
Yes, so we like to face every challenge, whatever it is, with a lot of courage, with creativity if need be, and that lends itself to that tenacity. So that's our fourth value. Our fifth value is humility. I don't think that anyone can be involved in this work without humility. I think it's very self-explanatory, but we as a staff
Absolutely.
sort of embrace that, there's nothing beneath us but the floor. And if we need to be the ones that are picking up the trash around our, campus, then we'll do that. If we need to take, any measure necessary, to help the people that we serve, then that's what we're going to do. We'll do whatever it takes.
Well, and I would imagine it takes humility for them to come and seek, but then on the other hand, too, in serving, it takes humility to go and ask the public, we need help.
Yeah. There's varied facets of that virtue of humility. And when we do ask the public to help, we certainly look at it as a humble request, but we also look at it as sharing an opportunity with them to participate in this work, and also for them to embrace these virtues. These virtues were largely based on Catholic social justice teaching.
Yes.
And I think that those are universal, virtues and values that people can embrace. And so even in that humble request of asking people to participate in our work, we're also asking them to also embrace our values, and not just when they work with us, but in their life.
And their opportunities for grace.
Absolutely. So with humility, we are, don't rejoice in our own work, but really in the collaborative efforts of ourselves, the people that support us, our clients, the work that they do for themselves, and other organizations in our community. And the very last core value of ours is justice. And that for us is that we want to advocate for a just society and pursue the transformation of systems in our community for the furtherance of the vulnerable. So meaning that we work with the Sheriff's Department, we work with the city government, we work with the medical community, we work, as in our work, we work with all these sort of parts that make up a community, make up a city, make up what we sort of live in, so that the people that we serve, we can help navigate them through and make sure that we're running as efficiently as possible as a community, taking care of the needs of the most vulnerable. I don't think that in Acadiana there's anyone that wouldn't get behind the idea of really taking care of our own. I mean, I think we're such a generous community, and we've had great success working with all those different systems. And each day we get a little bit farther. Right now we're involved in the downtown area with their development association, with the Sheriff's Department. We have great partnerships with Lourdes, Our Lady of Lourdes. We have great partnerships with the city government, and just working to end homelessness and ending poverty and hunger in Acadiana.
Well, Catholic Services of Acadiana provides many services for people suffering in our community. Let's go into a little bit more detail about the specific programs, Sarah.
Sure. Yeah, I think a lot of people think that we are actually just St. Joseph Diner. I've worked there for about 5 years, and that is a common expression that I hear from people when they find out all that we do is, oh, I had no idea. When people come and tour our facilities, they usually are just astounded by the amount of work that we do on that small campus. And it does seem a little bit disjointed between, we've got St. Joseph Diner, but we have, shelters as well. And one of the things that we've done recently is really, like I had said, focus. And in that focusing, like there is an actual holistic greater plan for those programs, and they are all intertwined and they all work together. So I'll start at the very, beginning with the most popular program, if you will, which is St. Joseph Diner. And like I said earlier, it did start in 1983. Serve 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, 364 days a year. The only day we don't actually serve a hot meal is on Mardi Gras. And we actually, do give out bagged lunches and things for the people that would be accessing those services that day. So it really is 365 days a year. So over the course of a year, we're looking at typically sharing about 120,000 meals with people in our community that are currently, hungry. In addition to that, we recently, about a year and a half ago, entered into a partnership, a greater, growth of a partnership with St. Bernadette Clinic and Our Lady of Lourdes to provide a full-time cook and a full-time nutritionist at the diner. We had a lot of conversations about just the folks that we serve and how many of their medical issues could be monitored, controlled, and even treated through just changes in diet. And
Absolutely.
So that grant provides for a nutritionist who plans menus, who looks at the donations that we receive, and make sure that the people that maybe have diabetes or hypertension or high blood pressure, that we can sort of change menus and provide nutrition services to them that way. And that's been a huge benefit to us to be able to have Lourdes on board for that.
Well, that's the holistic approach in that they eat well, then they'll be healthier, as you said, and looking at not just feeding them, but feeding them well. Right.
And we look a lot at the scriptures, obviously, but the idea that you would give someone a coat and say, be warm and well fed and have a nice day, but you're not really providing that for them. We wanted to look at all of our programs and say, let's take it one step further. Like, let's really make a meaningful impact through systems and solutions that are, evidence-based, that we can look and say, like, these are the measurables, this is what's actually being affected, and this is one of the ways that we've done that at the diner, which, would have normally been very challenging, but because of Lourdes' support, we've been able to do that. So next to the diner, right around the corner is another program called Stella Maris Center. And that is where people can come in and take a shower, they can wash their clothes. We will provide scrubs or a jumpsuit to people who are, coming in who literally only have the clothes on their back so that they can wash them. And we also do what's called coordinated entry through that program. So anytime that someone comes in to access those services, we have an assessment tool. So we sit down with them, we ask them a series of questions that helps us to assess their vulnerability, helps to assess their acuity. We ask them questions like, how long have you been experiencing homelessness? How often have you been in the emergency room in the last year? Just to sort of get an idea of how much help does this person need from us and how much of it can they do on their own. So that assessment tool helps us guide them through not only our services, but the services that exist within the community, the resources that they have access to. So we look at Stella Maris Center surely as providing those basic needs, but really as a huge part of a bigger system that really helps get people started on their journey out of homelessness. So that assessment tool gives everybody a number, a score essentially, so that we can say, you know what, these higher number folks may not be the easiest to work with. They may have some co-occurring issues such as mental illness, medical issues, but these are the people that need our help the most.
Right.
The people with the lower numbers, it's been shown that, if you give them about a week and a half to 2 weeks, a lot of times they can get themselves out of whatever situation they're in and get themselves back on their feet and find, housing for themselves. A lot of people that are experiencing homelessness have jobs, have income, and so those lower number folks can typically find their way out of it themselves. And so we would assign case managers to the folks that really need our help. We would provide emergency cots if necessary, if our shelter is full, so that we can get them off of the streets. We really look at that number as, how likely is this person to die or end up in the hospital if we don't help them immediately. So Stella Maris Center is integral to the larger aspect of our work. And so that I'll kind of segue into our shelter programs. We have St. Joseph's Shelter for Men, St. Michael's Center for Veterans, and New Life Center for Women. So we have 3 different shelter programs. If you kind of totaled it all up, you're looking at probably close to 150 men, women, children, and veterans that are being sheltered each night in our programs.
I'm sure the general public has no idea the extent that's offered.
Yes, and not only that, it's really, with the exception of New Life Center, all within one block of services. I remember when I started working at Catholic Services and they took me on a tour, we have these, pathways within the building to kind of get around. And the building from the outside is very unassuming. It doesn't look very big, and I remember going on a tour and them showing me all the different areas and it feeling a little bit like the multiplication of loaves and fish. It just felt like behind every door was another program and was another room and another space. And to think now we've actually expanded from when I started 5 years ago. So the Lord really is multiplying, space and people and resources for the benefit of those that are most vulnerable in our community. So right now our men's shelter is actually under construction. We're kind of reconfiguring some spaces through a grant with the city. It needed some updates, and so we're excited about what's happening with the shelters.
You talked about grants with the city earlier in conversation. You even told me how the city's working with you all as far as the gardening, the organic garden.
Yeah, so at the diner, we do have a garden. We started, I guess, back around 2012, and we did try very hard to manage it ourselves. And it is a challenge to garden. I'm not a gardener myself, but we have about 16 raised beds, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a substantial amount of produce that can come out of such a small area. And so we had somebody that was a part-time gardener for us for a while, but the Acadiana Recovery Center, which is part of the Sheriff's Department, approached us about an idea they had to basically work the garden for us, that their clients would be able to serve in that capacity and understand the benefit of giving back, and it was very therapeutic for them. And we would benefit from the produce, which is wonderful, and in tandem with that partnership with Lord's, gives us the ability to really provide very healthy meals for the people that are at the diner. So yeah, that's another aspect of our
community
working together. We love those partnerships. So yeah, we've got our shelter programs. And then the last one would be the Monsignor Segure Center, which was actually the first program that really sort of was formalized under our organization. And that is an Office of Financial Assistance, which we kind of look at as public relief, but it also houses our rehousing case managers and a financial assistant sort of case manager to help people look at budgets and how to budget and apply for mainstream benefits if they need. And the rehousing is really sort of the newest part, but also what I'm excited about, and that they actually work with people from Stella Maris Center, referred from other parts of the community. Other organizations refer to our organization, and they are case managers for people currently experiencing homelessness, whether they're living on the street or in a shelter, and working with them with whatever income they have, with whatever benefits they may be receiving, and finding appropriately priced housing for them. So the goal there is to not only find this housing, but to make sure that they can stay housed. So depending on the person and depending on what they have within them, their own resources, we may provide anywhere from 3 to 6 months of case management, going into their home, making sure that they have what they need. And the community's been very responsive in that effort as well, because what we like to do is when they move into their apartment or their house, we want to make sure that it feels like a home. And so we receive donations of appliances and couches and beds and sheets and curtains and shower curtains and all the things that make a home, brooms, laundry baskets, trash cans, toilet paper, all of those things, so that when they move in, it feels like a home. They're not having to worry about using the limited resources that they may have to getting that set up. And it's a lot easier to maintain. People are a lot more likely to stay housed if it feels like a home.
Sure.
So from start to finish, from the day that people experience homelessness through our rehousing programs, we're really diligently working to end that in our community. And we do believe it's possible. It's been done in communities across the country. And the idea is not that there would never be anyone homeless again, but that our system would be in place to where when they do experience homelessness, or whenever homelessness is experienced anywhere, that it's rare and brief, and there is a plan for them before it even happens.
You even mentioned that at one point when you started, you saw that there was generally a 100-day period where people were in shelters, and that number has decreased.
Right, so we've actually started monitoring that number on a weekly basis, because the idea is that we don't want anyone to experience homelessness for more than 30 days. So we were looking at that number, several months ago, and seeing that it was right around 100 days on average across our 3 programs, and really wanting to bring that number down. And so it's an annual goal of ours to continually bring that number down, so that within the next couple of years we're all the way down to 30 days or less. And that really means that we're being successful in our work, and that our community is being successful in its work to end homelessness in our community.
So if people want to help, what can they do?
There's so much. The number one question I get is, how can I help? And a lot of people want to volunteer in our programs. Because of the nature of our work, it is challenging to volunteer in the majority of our programs, but we do have a great volunteer program at St. Joseph Diner. It's easy to volunteer there. There's 3 shifts a day, and 7 days a week, so it can work on the weekends or the weekdays for people's schedules. So you can sign up online on our website, and then I would ask that people definitely look ahead of time, because people do reserve their spots very, very far in advance. And it's important to sign up ahead of time so that we know kind of how many people we have coming, so that we can prepare the appropriate level of volunteer projects for when they're there, and that we know that we have enough people to run the shift. So that would be the first way that I would say get involved. Another way is people like to host supply drives. We've got a great way online to fill out a form that you want to do a supply drive.
It's user-friendly too, because I checked it out before our interview.
We wanted to make sure that it was very easy for people to get what they wanted in terms of information, and to also take action on it immediately. So we like to also schedule those in-kind drives out across the year, so that we don't have a heavy concentration of them at 1 month and then have none later in the year. So we ask that people would, kind of use that interface online to schedule those. And then another way would be to certainly be informed about our work, about our values, and to model those in your life, because I think the stereotypes that we have of homelessness, of poverty and hunger, are sometimes detrimental to the furtherance of our work and the work of other like-minded community agencies. So to be informed, so look at our website, our blog, our newsletter. We write pieces not only about our work, but kind of what's going on in the country. And so I think that's very important. Another way is people can certainly donate financially to us, whether it's a small gift monthly, or once a year-end gift. That can be applied to any of our programs. You can designate something that you specifically would like to give to, or you can give to our general fund and trust us to be the best stewards that we can be with giving that money to the program that needs it the most at that time.
Well, we have about a minute left. Why do you believe the work of Catholic Services of Acadiana is so important?
Oh, in a minute. I think it's important because it represents a call of the gospel to serve the most vulnerable, and I think it's important because it is a reflection of God's mercy. And as we close out this year of mercy, that's what it's all about.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Sarah.
Thank you.
God bless all these wonderful works that you all are doing
Thank
over
you so
there.
much.
Thank you for joining us today for Catholics Today. Please know this program and all programs produced by the Catholic Diocese of Lafayette's radio and TV office is directly supported by your contributions to the Bishop's Services Appeal.